Welcome to this week's Eternal Monday, where Tsareena V from Fusion Strike faces off against Regigigas from Astral Radiance. This game comes from the finals of the December 2024 in real life Eternal format tournament that took place at Dragon's Lair at Alamo Ranch here in San Antonio, Texas. If you're new here, you might be wondering what the Eternal format even is. In short, it's the unlimited format with a ban list. This means that deck builders can venture all the way back to the very start of the Pokemon trading card game and make use of cards that aren't legal in the official standard or even the expanded format. This large card pool creates an exciting and fun, rich deck building experience that can be endlessly enjoyable for all types of players of the Pokemon trading card game. From the most skilled to the newest of new, from the biggest tryhard to the kitchen table champion, the Eternal format has something for everyone. Unsure where to get started? I've got a getting started video on this very YouTube channel that is a great crash course for how to get into the format. Additionally, there is now a page on justinbasil.com that features a wide variety of decks for the Eternal format. Both this page and the getting started video are linked in this video's description. Now, on to today's game. All right, our players are diving right in here. We have a Wobbuffet start on the side of Tsareena and a Squawkabilly Regigigas start for our Regigigas player. Not too bad, actually. Skyfield coming down right away. That Hisuian Heavy Ball probably delivering some scare. Oh, yeah, definitely delivering some interesting news to our Regigigas player. Looks like all of the Pokemon that are in those prizes, or all the Pokemon that are not Regis are in those prizes right now. I believe is what he was trying to show us. So pretty crazy stuff. Stealthy Hood there on that Squawkabilly EX so that it can use its Squawk and Seize ability even with that Wobbuffet active. Without that Hood, Squawkabilly would be unable to do anything. So it's really awesome that our Regigigas player actually managed to start that in their opening hand. We do see both Entei V and Regirock coming down on the bench there off of a quick ball. It looks like we're searching their deck, trying to find our next Pokemon of choice. That Pokemon is going to be a Regidrago. Regidrago, super good for helping us get our whole setup of these Regis. If you're not familiar with this deck, basically you need to have each of the 5 Regis in play along with Regigigas so that it can accelerate to wherever it wants from the discard pile with any type of energy it feels like having. And here we have a card from another game being sneaked onto the playmat by our Regis player just for the lulz. Our Tsareena player here doing a little bit of price checking while they are searching off of that. I believe that was a battle compressor there, getting a lightning energy and a Giratina into the discard pile. Making some choices here. Kind of a long search. I remember doing this particular game, I had to ask the player here to hustle a little bit. And a Zelf going into the discard pile. Very interesting choice. Nope. Choosing not to do that. Going instead with Unknown. This is the Retire Unknown. They're going to discard a Execute with that quick ball, searching the deck for Latias EX. Going to be able to pull the Wobbuffet out of the active spot with the effect of Latias' ability. Unlike most Pokemon that would be on the discard or in the discard pile here, Wobbuffet does not shut off Latias, so that's pretty good. Tsareena attachment there. Attaching a tool, I think, and we're going to see a Rescue Carrier. Rescue Carrier throwing that Unknown R into play. Drawing one card off of that card, and then going to use the quick ball to discard Skyfield and find a new card here. Probably choosing another basic Pokemon if I had to guess. Going with a Crobat. Interesting choice. Hopefully going to use that. They have to get the Wobbuffet out of the active spot to do this, but they can they can use both Crobat and Squawkabilly should they choose to do so. Wobbuffet going back and forth there for a little bit. Player not really wanting to make up its mind. Squawkabilly instead going to the active spot, and Crobat going down to the bench. Dark Asset being used, drawing 6 fresh cards at the top of the deck there. We do see a grass energy attachment onto Tsareena V. I believe that attachment that was there before, it was a forest steelstone. That could be relevant for the future. We see a discarded Celebi EX and a discarded discarded Ditto. That's Fire Red Leaf Green's form variation Ditto, and another copy of Giratina from Lost Thunder going into the discard pile. This deck, the Tsareena deck, is very discard pile heavy. You see the Rescue Carrier card coming in clutch here as it finds both Ditto, the form variation Ditto, and Celebi. The Celebi, of course, has the effect that it takes a card from your discard pile and puts it on top of your deck. So as long as you can find a way to draw into it, you're able to take advantage of the fact that you're just able to swap in a new card from your discard pile. Probably a little overpowered, frankly, and may need to be evaluated for the future, but for right now, it is a key part of this deck. See a Tapu Koko Prism Star coming down out of that deck there also. Probably going to pop that into the Lost Zone for a little bit of energy acceleration. So it would appear. We are going to attach to the Tsareena V on the bench there. Our opponent here is saying you have another energy, you do need to attach it. So that's going to have to be attached to the Celebi, it looks like. And at this point, we just need to see a way to get the Tsareena into the active spot. We see a double Giratina come down. Giratina, of course, using that Dimension Door ability to put a damage counter on 2 of the opponent's benched Pokemon when it comes into play. See a couple of those go onto that Entei V. That Prime Catcher is pulling Entei V to the active, and Tsareena, of course, going to the active on the Tsareena player side to take that knockout on Entei. Entei, of course, going to have a decent amount of HP, but between those little damage counters, the Giratina is laid down, and the damage from the discards that are about to happen here for Tsareena V's attack, I think we're going to be pretty well set. Tsareena V's attack, if you are not familiar, is a rather potent one. Basically, you are able to choose how many Pokemon you discard from your how many Pokemon you discard from your bench. So you have a whole bunch of bench Pokemon. With Skyfield in play, you have up to 8, and you can choose any number of them. And for each of those, you're going to do 40 more damage. So 20 damage base plus 40 more for each one you're discarding. So if you're discarding a full 8, that gets very, very high damage very, very quickly. We do see a few discards there to take that Entei out. Skyfield, of course, still in play for a Regigigas player. At this point, our Gigas player is looking to grab the interesting choice. So we see the Radiant Greninja come down and the Precious Trolley going to grab some of the Regis for us. We'll get that Registeel, the Regieleki, and the Regice. That's that one that has that Regi move, Poke Power. Really good for this deck, actually. Can force the active Pokemon to change out if it is a basic, just by discarding 2 cards. So you're increasing your draw capabilities with Regidrago, and you're also getting rid of effects on your opponent's active Pokemon if they have like a damage reduction or something. It can be very, very good for you. Do see a couple of cards drawn off of Radiant Greninja's ability. And a Trainer's Mail digging into the deck for a little bit of something. Getting an Arven. Arven, pretty great card. Probably not exactly what this player is wanting at the moment, but it's fun. It's something. Making a choice about which card to play or not play. Always a bit of a difficult struggle sometimes in this format. The game can get a little complex. We do see a Prism Energy going down onto the Regieleki, and it looks like we're going to be using that first attack to just put a card back into the hand there. Interesting. All right, and it's another Tsareena coming down there, getting those Tsareena out to play. Good thing about Tsareena in this case is that if you have to discard it, you can just get it back later. There are a bunch of different ways to do that. An Ino going to be played. This Tsareena player has decided that they do need to draw more cards in order to make this game viable. Probably looking for that Rescue Carrier. Yep, there's a Rescue Carrier in hand. We see both a Celebi and a Ditto come down. Ditto, of course, can become whatever Pokemon it needs to become, except for Pokemon EX. So it would not be able to become Latias EX, but it can become just about everything else. In this case, it's going to become Retire Unknown, going to draw a card off top of the deck. In this case, we have the Prime Catcher coming up off the top of the deck. From that Celebi, we're going to Prime Catcher up the Squawkabilly, and our opposing player, of course, is just the Tsareena player is just going to swap that Tsareena back in the active spot with the effect of Latias EX's ability. I do believe we can see we're going to eventually see a knockout on this Squawkabilly here. Looks like our player on the side of Tsareena is going to be coming up with another card that they want to get up on the top of their deck via their discard pile. They did look for a Celebi off out of their deck. They did, in fact. They just chose to put a Crobat on the top of their deck. Their hand's currently empty, so they'll top deck that next turn. Be able to use Dark Asset to draw 6 cards, which is pretty good. They're now down to just 2 prize cards remaining, while our Regigigas player still has, I believe, all of their prize cards remaining. Up next, we have a Registeel in the active spot. Registeel, of course, has that attack that does 220 damage minus damage for each of the colorless in your opponent's active Pokemon's retreat cost. In this case, Tsareena V's retreat cost is 0, thanks to Latias EX's ability, which is very interesting because in this case, that's actually going to work against Tsareena instead of in its favor. One of those times where a beneficial ability also has a negative side. Go see a few energy going into the discard pile off of Battle Compressor there. And we're going to see... we're missing our Regi... Are we missing a Regi? We are missing... We are not. We have all of them. So we see that Registeel going to be powered up, going to have just enough damage output to take that Tsareena V down in 1 hit. At this point, our player here on the Tsareena side does not have a fully powered up Tsareena ready to go, but I think they can get it pretty quickly if they're able to find something like a Raihan. They just need to find that as quickly as possible. They did have the Crobat off the top, so they can use that to draw some cards. But first, they're going to take advantage of a Battle Compressor they took off of their prize cards, searching for 3 more cards from the deck, a couple of Giratina going into there, basically immediately out of that deck search. 1 more card left to fulfill that Battle Compressor's maximum capability. We do see a Zelf drop into the discard pile there off of that Battle Compressor, just not wanting to draw into it most likely. Here we have a Mesprit come down, so Pokemon powers are disabled. Not really that important for our Regigigas player, but we do have Dark Asset finally coming down, 6 new cards coming down, coming from the deck into the hand there, and we have Battle Compressor discarding a Skyfield, a Professor's Research, and another Skyfield. Very bold choices. Because it doesn't really matter that much in this matchup because Skyfield is being played by the opponent, but still, that's never pleasant to do unless you absolutely have to, which I guess in this case you do. Raihan is seen. We do get a chance to see Raihan come out. We're going to search the deck for a Lightning Energy going down and being attached to Tsareena. Now Tsareena is fully powered up thanks to the effect of Raihan. That Rescue Carrier now going to pull a Celebi and a Retire Unknown out of the discard pile, dropping those both down to the bench. But first, we're going to use Celebi's Poke Power, putting Prime Catcher to the top of the deck again, drawing it again off of the Retire Unknown. That Latias EX now being forced into the active spot, being knocked to be knocked out by Tsareena V. Our Regigigas player putting up a good fight here. Rescue Energy being prized, not the best. Prizing kind of rough in general on both sides here. 2 Celebi EXs in the prize cards for our Tsareena V player, but ultimately Tsareena V doesn't really care. That deck is quite strong, and despite it being a fairly new deck for the Eternal format in terms of exploration, Celebi EX has proven to be quite a potent force in that deck and in its strength. And like I said, it is being evaluated at the moment. But all the same, Tsareena putting up a good fight. And I look forward to seeing how it handles other more mainstay decks in the format, things like Bayonet EX that have been around for a very long time that might slow it down with the item lock. Tsareena, of course, may not necessarily really care about the item lock. It does have a lot of its utility in its Pokemon powers and in its abilities. So whether or not item lock actually hinders it that much may be an interesting question. Rescue Carrier, of course, a very big part of Tsareena V and how it plays those Celebis turn after turn to get those Prime Catchers back and to get other tools and resources it wants back. But, you know, we'll see. Bayonet's a very fast deck, but Tsareena is faster. Speaking of extremely strong decks in Tsareena, let's talk about Tsareena as a deck and look at its deck list. This deck is very much built around just nuking your bench so that you can take advantage of the damage output that Tsareena V has with its Queen's Orders attack, which does 20 damage and then does 40 more for each of the bench Pokemon you choose to discard. You are picking how many you discard, and does 40 more for each one, so you can get up pretty high on your damage output. And you can, of course, tweak that damage output with the help of Giratina and its Distortion Door ability. Giratina's Distortion Door pulls itself out of your discard pile, puts it onto your bench for you. So not only are you getting the effect of Distortion Door in the sense that it's recovering Giratina for you, but you're also getting it in the sense that it's going to put a damage counter on two of your opponent's benched Pokemon. So you can pull 4 of those Giratina out of your discard pile each turn and put 4 damage counters on one Pokemon, 4 damage counters on another, or spread them around however you please, and ultimately just cause a little bit of havoc, right? At the same time, you're also going to be using Celebi EX's Pokemon Power Time Reversal, which says once during your turn, when you put Celebi EX from your hand onto your bench, you may search your discard pile for a card, show it to your opponent, and put it on top of your deck. And of course, you'd be drawing straight into that with Unknown R's Retire, which says once during your turn, if Unknown R is on your bench, you may discard Unknown R and all cards attached to it, then draw a card. So lots and lots of ways to kind of manipulate things here. You do, of course, have Marshadow to help play around with the sky fields to manipulate things as you need to take advantage of Giratinas or whatever other Pokemon you need. And you have tons of recovery draw, if you will, in the form of Minun and Oricorio and Pheasantipity. Each of these cards all have similar effects to one another, and that if one of your Pokemon was knocked out during your opponent's last turn, you get to draw cards. Between the 3 of these, you're going to be drawing 3, 3, and 2, so 8 cards off of knockout. Frankly, I think you're less concerned about your opponent knocking you out than you are about decking out, but that's the novelty of this game. You obviously get to see that Tsareena loves to recycle cards into its deck with Celebi. So in this particular game, you saw Prime Catcher go back into the deck, I believe, 3 different times. So total of 4 uses of Prime Catcher. Pretty insane stuff. So you have tons of crazy consistency between Battle Compressor and Celebi and Unknown. This deck just does what it wants to do. And then our second deck profile here is a long-standing legend, if you will, in the Eternal format. This is Regigigas from Astral Radiance. You have the Naganadel and Guzzlord for its big prize a turn. You have the different Regis. You're familiar with each of them from Standard, with the exception of the XY promo Regirock, which makes it so you can't gust it with a trainer card. Or, of course, the beautiful Regice that says that if you discard 2 cards from your hand, you're able to force your opponent's active basic Pokemon to leave the active spot. Really, overall, this is not a crazy deck compared with Standard Regigigas, but the extra little things it has going for it really do make it just that much better. Thornton, of course, always makes it so that you're a little bit more flexible with what you have out. It also lets you recover a Reggie in a pinch. And in this particular instance, our player has chosen to run a copy of Entei V, I think in anticipation of Tsareena V likely being run at this in real life tournament, because frankly, Tsareena V has been a whisper for a while. I myself had it built as of about a month ago. We are, of course, keeping a constant eye on the format and keeping decks under observation that need observation. So it was not an unknown to us before this tournament. All the same, Regigigas did get some cool tools from more recent sets, especially Latias EX and Precious Carrier, both of which are new to this deck list, and our player has chosen to play them in place of a card that I thought was very vital to the deck, Counter Energy. Counter Energy did not make it into this version of the list. Personally, I would hesitate to cut it, but they have chosen to cut it here. Let me know what you think. Would you cut Counter Energy from Regigigas? Is that a thing you would do? Anyway, that is all for today's video. I hope you all enjoyed it. I'll see you again in the next video.